Now, one person we did hear from today for the first time, Karen Reed herself, doubling down, of course, saying she did not do this. She wants to know who did.
Said it feels we're the only ones fighting for the truth of what happened to John O'Keefe. And me and my family and my attorneys and my team have marshaled every resource to get to the truth. It just feels like no one else wants it.
Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
And no, she didn't do it. No, she didn't do it. This is an innocent woman. She didn't do it.
I tried to save his life.
Yeah.
I tried to save his life at 6 in the morning. I was covered in the only one trying to save his life.
Why'd you admit to it?
She didn't admit to it. She didn't admit to anything close to that. Nothing close to that. And you should know that.
That was like 3 or 4 times she admitted to it.
No, she didn't.
That's not true.
She asked a question. She asked a question, which is very different. She didn't admit to anything.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, how is everybody? Wanted to just do a quickie today. Excuse me for being late. And talk about the Karen Reed case one more time ahead of her hearing tomorrow. Innocence Fraud Watch did an excellent blog. I'm going to talk about that. All about Karen Reed and really how the McAlberts theory, basically framing her former acquaintances, really John O'Keefe's friends, with her own crime, came from her own head, her own imagination. So we're going to talk about that today. And how one man, Steve Scanlon, got involved and inserted himself. And now we have 3 stories as to how this happened. We're going to look at that today. But it really is, Aidan Carney is really out on the offensive against a woman accusing him of SA, released an audio of it. All the free Karen readers are playing it. And it's the most horrific audio. You have to be a total psychopath to think that you come off well, Aidan, in that audio. So the woman is completely upset, hysterical, and you can hear Aidan calm, cool as a cucumber, just getting off on her torment and his feeling of power over her. And of course, taping it, very much like Karen Reed. These people love creating their own evidence to manipulate. So their own audio tapes, their own videotapes. He's saying things like, I believe, throwing out theories that she's trying to bring him down somehow. And she's like, you got to be kidding me, You're the one who's going to go after my kids. And lo and behold, her whole world's been torn down by this. And what I'm really fearful of is that I think that he, as far as these tons and tons of witness harassment charges that he has against him, that is, he's going to go into court with his Razzzle Dazzle, Billy Flynn type lawyers, Yannetti type lawyers, in my opinion, and pull a fraud upon the court. It's very easy to think that, I have the truth on my side, but these people can make, make ice look hot if they want to, and will concentrate on minutia or an embarrassing part of your history and make it everything. I mean, look at Karen Read case. So it's really interesting. What we're witnessing with Karen Read is, and the Aidan Kearney side story is really a microcosm of the Karen Read story. Very much two very similar psychopathic personalities. And are they going to get away with the crimes that they're accused of? And how do they do it? Going into people's Facebooks and getting all their Facebook data so they can concoct a story of their own. And we saw those pictures being used in the trial. I mean, I thought it was laughable. Looked like maybe when John O'Keefe was on a vacation in Aruba with Karen Read, that they were taking care of his house and they're on his fence, and, you know, the Nebuchadnezzar story that basically John O'Keefe had some beef with Callan Albert, and they used these pictures of them on the fence, you know, obviously joking about him being the off your lawn kind of guy, meaning John O'Keefe being the kind of get off the lawn kind of guy. I thought it was ridiculous. But lo and behold, there are tons of free Karen readers who believe it. And so, you know, I'm very worried for Aidan Kearney's accuser, and I hope she's protecting herself and being smarter and strategic, because they're looking for any weakness that they can exploit. That's the name of the game with psychopaths, and they're very observant about people's weaknesses because they've been manipulating people their whole life. Ditto Karen Read. So tomorrow we're going to see her in court. Yannetti has a article about him in a law review. It's not a law review, excuse me. What is it exactly? It's, what is it? Let me look. It's Boston College Law School magazine. We're going to look at that. And a couple of videos. So starting out with Innocence Fraud Watch's blog. Yeah, Karen Read, the Dan Islander. Karen Read is free. You don't have to free her. Unfortunately, she is walking around free. Okay. So this is, of course, I'm on the bottom of the page again. Really too much with this. Excuse me. Let me scoot up to the top. Thanks for being patient. So this is kind of a long, involved history. I'm going to be kind of, see, these are the, yeah, Innocence Fraud Watch blog. Also puts in these pictures so we can take a little bit of a look at them. Killer Karen Read retrial. Will Hank Brennan, so that's the new prosecutor who we may see tomorrow, hopefully, subpoena private investigator Paul Mikowski's and Stephen Scanlon to establish who concocted fantastical story about Brian Albert, Colin Albert, and Brian Higgins. And why was Brian Higgins made a villain in this? And I really think it's because he got her number. If you look at those text messages between Brian Higgins and Karen Read, he's asking her, like, why the love bombing, basically? Why the interest? What's going on? What's your relationship with John O'Keefe like? Why? What's this all about? What is all this sudden interest? Why do you think I'm not sure I believe you when you say I'm hot. Timeline extracts. So 31st of December, approximately, while on holiday with his niece and nephew, John O'Keefe received a couple of photographs from his friends and former neighbors, Julie and Chris Albert. So here are these on your lawn. Does anybody remember these pictures from Julie and Chris Albert? These are the, we're supposed to believe are the real killers. That there's such bad, Karen Reed concocted a story that there was bad blood between John O'Keefe and 17-year-old teenager Colin Albert, who is Chris and Julie's youngest son. So let's listen to David Yannetti's story. First, hold on one second.
I'm concentrating my argument on changed circumstances. It is a fact that the nature and circumstances of this case have completely changed, even since the last time this court modified her bail. The nature and circumstances of this case, in fact, are night and day from what was presented to Judge O'Malley in Stoughton District Court at my client's arraignment there over 19 months ago. By the time I got back to my office that afternoon, I had already begun to learn that this wasn't just a tragedy, and it wasn't just that my client had committed no crime, but shockingly at the time, I learned that somebody else did, in fact, commit a very heinous crime. A friend and colleague of Brian Albert's called me on February 2nd, 2022, only hours after my client was arraigned, and named Brian Albert and his nephew Colin Albert as potential suspects.
So then Innocent Fraud Watch blog puts in a little clip from the great movie Chicago of Razzzle Dazzle. There's Yannetti Razzzle Dazzling him with his fantastical story that he just got back from the arraignment with his client. And there was someone, a tipster, ready to give off the, tell the real story of the real killer. It was, in fact, Colin Albert. Colin Albert, 17-year-old kid. Never mind that taillight and Karen Reed's broken taillight. And it's all over John O'Keefe. Never mind that. They all just thought to throw him in the front lawn, that as a police officer and like a high-level detective involved in pretty much all the famous cases of the past 20 years, that they want to just throw John O'Keefe in the front lawn because that's the best place to hide your crime. No? I mean, come on. I can't believe that anyone believes it. You know what I mean? As I report on this, each Innocence Fraud narrative is so dumb, and I've fallen for some of them myself, so I'm not immune to them. But this one is so dumb, is so unbelievable. And with Karen Reed's own admissions, like she's telling on herself every other word. Did I hit him? I said, did I hit him? Really, Karen? Because you always seem to be wondering about something that most people wouldn't wonder about and worry about. Most people wouldn't frantically in a snowstorm be looking for their boyfriend. That they dropped off the night before at someone's house. They would have thought, oh, he slept at someone's house. He didn't want to drive in the weather conditions. They wouldn't be frantic even at 5 a.m. in the morning. It would have been taken much later. They also wouldn't get themselves, an innocent person wouldn't get themselves committed so they didn't have to talk to the police. But we're all in the same joke, right? I mean, I really feel like Karen Reed's like, that was a foreshadowing of the huge Innocence Fraud campaign to come. It's just a massive joke on the public. It's so dumb. Hold on one second. Let me just share my screen and we can kind of go through some of Innocence Fraud Watch's excellent blog. The link is in the description of this episode, as always. I always list my sources. Hey, Heisenberg. Hold on one sec. Heisenberg says, Sean is winning the narrative against the Karen cult. Is he? Nobody still hasn't responded back to him, not even Aiden. It's very telling to witness. Huh, interesting. Guess they've written him off, huh? I'm surprised he hasn't gotten more harassment, because that's their style. Harass, dehumanize, diminish, embarrass, you know. So on the 28th of January 22nd, John O'Keefe was in C.F. McCarthy's pub. So again, this is a really important part of the narrative that gets buried, which is about Richie the plumber. Because it's not part of the Voss narrative, right? We don't hear about it. And I think it's really important because this is some of the last text messages that they shared. John's waiting for Karen to come out to drinks, and she's like, I'm just in my home, my hot water's messed up, and I'm having a plumber come over on a Friday night at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So it's obvious ploy to make him jealous, in my view, but we've never heard from this Richie the plumber. We've never seen the Richie the plumber text. And this is the kind of thing that I would think this judge would rule as unimportant if you don't see it in the context of the real narrative. The fake narrative of this story has always been that Karen Reed was so jealous. She was so jealous, and she was so fueled with alcohol. She was so drunk. I'm talking about our side of the narrative, and I think it's wrong. I've always said that I don't think the alcohol touched the sides with Karen Reed. If you want to call it a hollow leg, if you want to call it a regular drinker, that functional drunk, whatever you want to call it, I think it's very notable that neither the police noticed she was that drunk, neither her friends noticed that she was that drunk. No one around her said, oh, Karen Reed is so drunk that morning or that night. And we all saw how many drinks she had in record time, in what would put me on the floor as a non-drinker. I would be gone the first couple shots, passed out. But Karen is just like cool as a cucumber, functions very well. So the fake story has always been that she was so jealous, she was so angry and jealous. John O'Keefe thought he might be cheating. I think that is absolute nonsense. I think she liked to accuse John O'Keefe of cheating because she was. It's my theory. It's often what psychopaths like to do. Accuse people of doing things that they are doing themselves. And I think she was trying to make him jealous with this Richie the plumber stuff. And I do think it annoyed John O'Keefe. John O'Keefe was at the end of his rope. And I think they fought about this that night. And he may have told her he'd had enough. He'd already kicked her out of his house and she refused to leave right before this. So I would love Hank Brennan to investigate, find if there really was a Richie the plumber. Did these text messages occur? Was there any communication between a plumber and Karen that night? It's really important. It's the last text messages it's the last sort of text messages before she comes. Some of the last text messages, let's put it that way. She comes out that night. So, of course, the first thing that John O'Keefe would have said to her is, how'd you get on with the plumber? What happened? Does my father, who is a plumber, need to come over? And she may have said something, blown it off, he may have caught her in a lie. Remember, he was a police officer. A lot of them are like human lie detectors. And he may have been annoyed. And when she didn't want to come out that night, he was like, fine, I'll go without you. I'll go see the Alberts without you. See ya. And she was like, backed into him purposely. 75% down on the pedal, 24 miles an hour in reverse with her infotainment system flashing and beeping at her. You could not have missed that. So that's what makes it second-degree murder, that her foot never hit the brake, that she couldn't have ignored her infotainment system. It couldn't have been ignored. And that she told her father, I thought I hit something. Coincidentally, her father is handing over his communication with Karen Reed. And I believe he's testifying too, but I haven't taken a look at it yet. I've just read the headlines. So here we are. So she says he's got to go. So Karen tells John that Richie the plumber, here's Karen telling John, said he's got to go to Home Depot and probably be back tomorrow. John O'Keefe had texted Karen Reed at 8:28 stating, tell him to leave it and I'll take care of it Sunday or Monday. Because nobody was going to do anything. A Northeaster was coming in. Karen Reed replied, no, it's okay. I can either meet him here or just shut off the alarm. So she was trying to stir up some jealousy and make John O'Keefe feel useless, because remember, his father was a plumber. And January 29th, John O'Keefe was murdered by Karen Reed between 1:30 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. Karen Reed alleged she had slept on John O'Keefe's couch, having let herself into the garage like a burglar at around 12:36 a.m. Tap on the button below and read more. And the below was written by Karen Reed and sent to Aiden Turtleboy Kearney via intermediary Natalie, and we'll hear a little bit from her in a second. Jen McCabe was calling Tom because Jen knew that Aaron Beatty was in contact with Colin just hours before. So Jen, I don't really want to expose Aaron, but this is why Jen called over there to find out what the Beattys were aware of. So this is Tom Beatty that Jen McCabe called that night. And that morning, and the O'Keefes and the McCabes would like to spin a tale that I was hooking up with Tom, who half of Canton thinks is gay. Sorry, Nat, if you need a break from middleman duties, please say so. I can have John S. take over and give you a reprieve. So that's a copy of Tom Beatty had tried to call Jennifer McCabe at around 8:50 a.m. This call was missed. Tom Beatty called Jennifer McCabe again at 1:31 p.m. This call was answered and lasted 3 minutes and 14 seconds. The content of this call is not known to the public. And on the 30th and 31st of January 22nd, according to an interview with Gretchen Voss in 2023, Karen Reed said she allegedly curled up on her parents' couch in Dighton for 3 days. It is not known. So there's the plumber issues again. The message was sent by Karen Reed via intermediary Natalie to Aiden in around May 2023. The message suggests that Stephen Scanlon contacted Karen 2 days after John died. So this is the man that supposedly David Yannetti is referring to, who came February 2nd, right after his client was arraigned. Stephen Scanlon told us the whole story of what happened to John. And when we asked him to sign an affidavit, he disappeared. Colin and Brian beat up John, broke his nose, knocked him out. A couple hours later, John was convulsing and vomiting everywhere. Brian and Higgins waited until 3 to 4 a.m. and placed John at the edge of the property, as seasoned police officers are known to do. He told us that 2 days later, after John died, he said John fell backwards when he became unconscious and split his head open. February 1st, 2022, Karen was arrested from her home in Mansfield. 2nd of February, private investigator Steve Scanlon claimed he contacted Karen Reed, not Yannetti, via Facebook Messenger. He stated to Aidan Kearney, what I did was, here's what I did, the thing stinks. I don't give an F who's involved, okay? I'm going to play that. Actually, first I'm going to play the, hold on one second. The details of between Natalie and the police who were contacting her regarding, I believe, this witness harassment campaign and her version of events. But what's really interesting about it is it paints Karen really as kind of a stalker who stalks people's Facebook, very much like Aidan Kearney does, gets their pictures so they can concoct a story, get anything embarrassing, all for ammunition, all to have power over people. Heisenberg says all she wanted to do was take responsibility for the very beginning and avoid this legal quagmire that has to be playing in her mind at some point. Who wanted to take responsibility? I don't know who you're talking about, Heisenberg. Let me know. Hold on, let me look. It'll take a little while with the lag to catch up. All right. I'll let's take a listen to Natalie before we go on any further.
Stupid me, I got involved with Sean on the golf. And then also with Scanlon, the reason why you're going to get all these screenshots is Karen and I went on Scanlon's Facebook page before Aidan. Okay, so we went on Scanlon's Facebook page and we did screenshots of every single photo he had and kept them because we knew that Karen was going to have Erica Davis go on the chat.
Okay. All right. I'm going to read it again. Murder by Maestro is saying that I've misread it. Hold on. Heisenberg, all she had to do was take responsibility. Oh, all she had to do. You're right, Heisenberg. I get it. I'm sorry. My apologies, guys. Was take responsibility from the very beginning and avoid this legal quagmire that has to be playing in her mind at some point. No, I don't think it is, though. Look what she's gotten from it. She's become a celebrity. Vanity Fair journalists are sleeping over at her house. She's got a whole bunch of attention, and she's made herself the victim in this story, and a whole bunch of power. And you have to remember, she's very bored. It's made life very exciting for her. I don't think she stresses about the finances the way she says she does to Vanity Fair. Who knows what she has stashed away? You know, it's a very compelling tale to say that you're so in debt and that you're being prosecuted by the big government and you're losing all your money fighting for your innocence, for her $5 million defense. I believe it was something like, I mean, it was way under that. The figures that we got were way under that from Unetti and Jackson. It was like $800,000 for the first trial. Hardly $5 million, but there's other things, other costs. I don't know.
Of Aiden's YouTube channel and just write, who's Stephen Scanlon?
The odd thing about that Vanity Fair article, just one thing, is that she says she had to take Unetti. She paid for Unetti's dinners and Alan Jackson's dinner every night. That is not Karen Reed. I call BS on that. I call shenanigans on that story. No way is Karen Reed paying for everyone's meal every night. It's just not Karen Reed. She's the take as much as you can get and give as little as possible woman.
And that's why when you see, if you've seen the Scanlon tape, how my name pops up, it's because Aiden texts me.
So if you're just tuning in, this is Natalie, who was the middle woman for Karen Reed between Karen Reed and Aiden Carney, Aiden Turtle Boy Carney, the blogger. So Karen would leak things through Natalie, the woman talking, to Aiden. Does everybody get it now? So Natalie's a really important witness in all this. And that's how this story was concocted. Natalie's talking about how this Steve Scanlon story was concocted. So Steve Scanlon was apparently the whistleblower. Now Unetti's saying he might have used a different name, an alias, but it really came right from Karen Reed, from some Karen Reed's imagination, in my opinion. Is everybody getting it now? Okay. Continuing on. Should I start at the beginning? Should I go back? All right, we're only a minute into it. Hold on one second. Okay. Whoop. Okay.
And involved with Sean on the golf. And then also with Scanlon, the reason why you're going to get all these screenshots is Karen and I went on Scanlon's Facebook page before Aiden. Okay, so we went on Scanlon's Facebook page and we did screenshots of every single photo he had and kept them because we knew that Karen was going to have Erica Davis.
So that's Scanlon, FYI.
Go on the...
For those listening on podcast, it doesn't really matter, but middle-aged guy in a turtleneck and a jacket.
Chat of Aiden's YouTube channel and just write, who's Stephen Scanlon? And that's why when you see, if you've seen the Scanlon tape, how my name pops up, it's because Aiden texts me something like, who wrote Stephen Scanlon on my text? And then I said, Erica Davis. And then it was because Karen told me, hey, can you text Erica Davis and tell her to just write, who is Stephen Scanlon? Because she wanted to stir the pot. And then Aiden called Stephen and recorded it. And then...
Did everybody hear that? Karen likes to stir the pot. Very much like Aiden Carney. Right?
Aiden was like, oh my gosh, look what I have. And he set it as a private link. So you could only watch that. You couldn't go on his page and find it. It was a very private link.
So run that through me again, how Aiden became aware of Scanlon. It was the first time that he heard of it was on the comments on the YouTube Live?
No, Karen told us that that's how she put the story together, because that morning she was so confused and so hungover.
Yeah, but how'd she get it? How'd she get who Scanlon was?
Because he went to Yannetti's office. And and Scanlon said, like, this, there's something wrong with the story. They were beat up in the house. Somebody told me that he was beat up in the house.
But then Karen, knowing to put the out on social media, she directed you or to ask who is this Scanlon?
To scare Scanlon.
Why would Karen want to scare Scanlon?
Hopefully have him talk. I don't know.
And what was the why beforehand capture?
Right. So Natalie doesn't want witness harassment charges. This is why she's talking. And it would be more helpful if she talked more, because she knows a whole lot more about this. She knows the whole origin story of the Free Karen Read movement. And she's kind of hiding on the periphery, protecting herself. So almost like Gretchen Voss and everyone else, right?
All his pictures.
And when you do that, when you don't stand up to the mob wins.
Because Karen did that, especially with, like, that's how she was able to get all the pictures of the Alberts and the McCabe's and all those kids, and show that Proctor's mom wrote to Chris Albert, "You guys are my second family." So Karen is heavily on Facebook and studies Facebook like no other. And so that was like a very big tool for her.
Did you guys hear that? Karen Read studies Facebook like no other. So everything that we saw in court came from Karen Read's snapshots. It came from Karen Read's really own imagination, I believe. People getting ideas. I believe she watches everything about herself, gets ideas from both sides for her defense, and concocted this McAlberts story. Colin Albert, get off my lawn. Nebuchadnezzar. It's ridiculous.
To realize that these folks really do know each other.
But it seems like Scanlon was important to her. So, but capturing Facebook pictures she could use against him?
I don't know.
No? Okay.
We just did it. There was no rhyme or reason, or like, it was like, let's just get all his pictures, as many as we can, before they're gone, before he locks his page or before he deletes it. Because I guess that's what happened with McCabe and Proctor, is they ended up like locking their pages or limiting it, and not making it a public page.
Right, but then it was too late. Karen Read's always one step ahead, as these psychopaths often are. One step ahead. They've locked their page, Jen McCabe and Proctor, but Karen Read already has all their pictures. I mean, it's really scary, no? Does anyone else find this creepy? Like single white female type creepy? I mean, it's not single white female in that she's trying to take on someone else's persona, but the element of stalking to cover up your own crime and try to make these people who just, have their own inside jokes in their life out to be villains. And I still get it all the time. It's totally pointless. I pay no mind to it. Constant from Twitter and YouTube and anywhere where there's comments. I hear from the Free Karen Read people, she's innocent. And, they just leave me comments like, she's innocent. And I feel like it's just like.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Exactly. So continuing on how this story was concocted, it is a little complicated because there's really so many different stories around how Steve Scanlon got involved, and we'll listen to his conversation with Aiden. He's like, I got the idea from you, Aiden. Cal and Albert. And apparently he returned the check that Yannetti gave him to be a expert witness, I assume. So Stephen stated that he recently reached out to Karen over Facebook Messenger and told her that he was a private investigator and he would be willing to put out another set of eyes on the investigation, because these private investigators and former police officers or former sheriffs are always looking for work. And in innocence fraud campaigns, they frequent. You frequently see ex-FBI, retired investigators, because they're always looking to improve on their pensions if they got a pension, or looking for work, and they'll gladly go along with some innocence fraud campaign. Some of them, not all of them, some of them, select ones. And they know that holds a lot of weight, that we hold a, we give a lot of weight to these ex-FBI, ex-detectives, Karen Reed recommended that Stephen contact her attorney, David Yannetti. Why hasn't Stephen Scanlon set the record straight by publishing screenshots of exactly what he sent Karen Reed via Facebook Messenger and what she sent him in return? According to intermediary Natalie, Karen Reed subsequently copied all of Stephen Scanlon's photographs. So we just heard that. So this is when she was in February 2nd, she was arraigned. And this is when Yannetti says Stephen stated that he was not sure of the exact date. This is from October 2023 State Police Report, that he was not sure of the exact date, but that he eventually contacted Yannetti's office and offered the same services, suggesting that O'Keefe might have been beaten up and that he was not sure what happened, but would be willing to work on the case, obviously only if agreed on by Yannetti and his client. Following their phone conversation, David Yannetti asked Stephen to come into the office to further discuss the matter, which Stephen did back in early 2002. Below is what Stephen Scanlon stated he had speculated to David Yannetti and to Paul Makowski, who was there at the meeting. Okay. He said maybe he got hit by a plow, maybe he got beat up, but they said he was missing a shirt. It looked like a fight, and that's whatever it was. It looked like a fight. It was okay. So let's listen to that conversation. I believe that's from the conversation with Aiden, but it'd be a good time to play it anyway. Hold on one second, guys. Let me pull up the file. So this is an Aiden Turtle Boy Carney.
In the Boston Police Department?
I worked with him, yeah, just for a couple of years.
Okay. Are you still friends with him?
You know what? Since this whole thing took place, I'll be honest with you, if I saw him prior to this whole thing, I'd see him maybe once every, I don't know, 5 years.
Okay.
If I was at a road race or something like that, I'd run into him. It wasn't like we called each other or anything like that. But then, prior to this, I haven't talked to him. When this whole thing started, no.
Okay.
Because I'll be honest with you, and I'm an honest person. This thing stinks.
What, the Karen Reed thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
tell me about it.
in my own view, initially when this whole thing took place, no one saw an autopsy photo. No one saw anything. You read about it, he had a scrape on his arm, a bump in his head, or whatever. Then when you did it, you opened everyone's eyes, because I was like, this dude got beat up.
Right.
It appeared he got beat up. And that's all. I mean, I've been just following you, and when you're out and about, everybody in the world's talking about it, and everybody has the same point of view you have.
Oh, I know.
It is what it is.
But people that...
Right. Maybe I could get involved in a popular innocence fraud campaign, and maybe then I could get more work from this popular Innocence Fraud campaign. Everybody's talking about it. You heard Steve Scanlon, and everybody agrees with you. You've convinced everyone because you'd have to read the state's filings, and those are so boring to read, to hear the other side. And few people did that. I wonder how many people dropped out after the trial from the FKR. I mean, for some free Karen readers, no evidence will ever be enough. They're convinced it's all one big conspiracy. How it actually happened, they have no idea, and there's no concrete theory to how it actually happened. It just is.
That are close to you have told me, and that's how I got your name, that you've known this was a beating for quite some time, and that you might have contacted the defense about it. Is that true?
That's correct. What I did was, here's what I did. When this whole thing took place, I said, this thing stinks.
Yeah.
Okay? An innocent person should not be blamed for something if they didn't do it.
Right.
And that's what I stand for.
Right.
So,
now,
he says, as they're blaming innocent people, innocent persons shouldn't be blamed, but Cal and Albert and the Albert family should definitely be blamed. And throw in Jen McCabe while you're after it, ruin her life, and boo the O'Keefe family, make their life even more awful, grieving families' life even more awful. This campaign really is taking on the personality, as all these Innocence Fraud campaigns do, of the killer. Totally psychopathic. No feeling for any of these people.
You've spoken to Karen Reed?
No, I have not. I reached out to her on Messenger.
Okay.
This was like a year or so, a long time ago, whenever, I don't know when it was.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, look, I'm reading this stuff, I'm looking at it. I didn't, if you need help with this, I'll give you help free of charge. I met with the attorneys, and then the attorney and the investigator. And when I met with them, I didn't know who they were looking at or what, you know what I mean? I didn't really know the focus of it. I didn't know the people involved, whatever. And when they did, I was like, I have to walk away from this. I'm sorry. It's a conflict. It is what it is. I wish I could, but I told them if I learned of anything, if I knew anything firsthand, they would know about it.
Okay. What made you decide to go to them? Just it didn't smell right?
No, I mean, the injuries.
The injuries, right. Had you seen the autopsy photos at the time?
I saw your stuff. I followed you one tonight. And I'll tell you.
Yeah, but didn't you go last year sometime before I wrote about this?
Yes. But that was only because they talked about swollen eyes, a cut on his arm, and I'm like, maybe he got hit by a plow, or maybe he got beat up because I think they said...
Right. So what they're saying is, so here's the problem with the Scanlon story. So here's the problem. Did everybody hear that? So Aiden is like, whoa, wait, I thought you were the source of the Colin Albert, that you had secret knowledge of Colin Albert doing this. And he's like, no, I just thought maybe he'd been hit by a plow or someone beat him up or something. That's why I went to the office. That's what I talked to Yannetti about. I found out about the McAlberts story from you, Aiden. And Aiden's all disappointed because you can't say that the origin story came from Karen Reed's imagination, which it did. Does everybody get this? He's like, I was just coming up with possible other theories that I was open to investigate for some do-re-mi. But eventually, it was too sleazy even for me to get involved, and I handed back the check. I wonder why. I wonder what scared him off.
he was missing a shirt or whatever it was. It looked like a fight.
Okay.
And whatever it was, it looked to me like it was a fight.
Did they ask you to sign an affidavit or anything?
No. It was just a simple talk.
Okay.
It was just a simple conversation. It was only my opinion. That's all it was.
Right. It was just from my opinion, from my imagination. I was just thinking of other things. It's just like from my imagination. It was just an opinion that I had once. Just a thought. Just a thought. So now Aiden's stuck because Aiden's like, I can't say that I was leaked this stuff through Karen Reed. You have to put that some inside source gave it to us. You can't say that we purposely went out and targeted the Albert family. Does everybody get this?
Okay.
My opinion. They had a different opinion. Not a different opinion. They believe there was something happened.
Oh.
Okay. As far as like a fight.
Okay.
Okay. And that was it. And then I left. That was it. We talked about my background, and how I knew Brian, how I knew other guys that we worked with, things like that. Very simple talk. And that was it.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, believe me, I'll call you clowns. If I learn anything firsthand, you're going to know about it too.
Yeah, I'm just.
And I only say that because if it was.
It's like, he told them, by the way, that he wasn't taping this conversation because it would be illegal. Strangely, it was taped somehow.
If it wasn't for you, the fucking story would have never made it.
Right.
It would have been dead.
Can I ask you, how did you know Colin Albert was in the house?
Who?
How did you know Colin Albert was in the house?
Probably through you. I don't even know Colin Albert.
No, but did you?
This is like a comedy of errors. Is anyone else laughing? He's like, Aiden's like still playing dumb and still is like, I'm making my own evidence here. But you know about Colin Albert. How did you tell Yannetti about Colin Albert? You're supposed to be the big whistleblower. Man, I really hope Yannetti comes under some fire. He really should. I'm surprised he hasn't been reported. See, what they did was they leaked things through Natalie to Turtle Boy. Turtle Boy would write about them, and then they would put them in their own briefs as it's been reported. So they've been doing this all along. He should really be reported to the bar for this kind of stuff. This goes against the rules of his profession. But I believe everybody's too afraid of. Yannetti's a big name in that area.
Did you tell the attorneys that Colin Albert was in the house when you met with him?
Did I what?
Did you tell the attorneys that, or David Yannetti or whoever, when you didn't mention the name Colin Albert to them?
I didn't even know Colin Albert.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even know him. So I just want to, this is really the end of it. So let me just go back quickly and scan through Innocence Fraud Watch's excellent blog. She's the one who's really put this all together beautifully. Concoctions. According to Gretchen Voss, who interviewed Karen Reed alongside David Yannetti in mid-2023, referring to Stephen Scanlon, it wasn't long before a more sinister theory of what happened began to emerge. On his drive home after the arraignment, Yannetti says he returned a call to a tipster who had previously called his office, a man with a gravelly voice and a heavy Boston accent, I say, who initially offered up a fake name, picked up the phone and told Yannetti he recalls something in the effect of, "Your client is innocent." Wait, let me see if I can do this. Let me see if I can reenact this. Okay, I'm going to be the man with the gravelly voice. "Your client is innocent." Sorry, I can only do a New York accent. "John was beaten up by Brian Albert and his nephew. They broke his nose, and when O'Keefe didn't want to come to, Brian and a federal agent dumped his body on the front lawn. Like, and Gretchen Voss writes that like it really happened. Do you see how all this, like, do you see how Gretchen Voss is part of this Innocence Fraud campaign? And unless she really, Karen Reed could get away with this. Her and her redacted notes, go back to last episode about Karen Reed for that. 150 or 150 redactions just on our audio tapes. I feel like by the time we wanted to hear what she was talking about, they were on to another subject. Redaction was over. Why is Gretchen Voss protecting Karen Reed? Or are we going to hear the unredacted tapes in her Netflix series when that gets released, supposedly this summer, but they're always delayed, when it no longer matters, when Karen Reed is acquitted or gets convicted of some lesser charge and Gretchen Voss can clean up with, is that why she's redacting these tapes? Why would Stephen Scanlon use a fake name to call David Yannetti when he had already seemingly used his own name to contact Karen Reed via Facebook Messenger, right? Does anybody remember when I played just 2 minutes ago, when I played Natalie's interview with the police? She said, Karen Reed put it out there. Who's Stephen Scanlon? And so we've already listened to David Yannetti. We can listen to it again if you want. Who used the pseudonym Mike Lynch. So the real question is, who's Mike Lynch? Elisa Leston for Boston College Law School magazine stated on November 11th, 2024, the next turning point for Yannetti was a phone call from an anonymous source who first claimed to be Mike Lynch, a popular sportscaster. He told Yannetti that Reed was innocent and that he should look at the homeowner of the property where the death occurred and his nephew. They beat the victim up. They left him outside, the caller claimed. So another shadowy figure. And David Yannetti's being helped along by these aspiring journalists and established journalists like Gretchen Voss. Gretchen Voss's story also revealed that Karen Reed had been in contact with Tom Beatty sometime in February 22nd. Reed called Beatty, "Do the Alberts have a dog?" she asked. "Yes," he replied, "a German Shepherd." Then 3 months later, Reed says a couple that Reed and O'Keefe had been close to came over to Reed's house for dinner. They had just testified before the grand jury in the case, summoned along with the others who appeared in the Reed's call log the morning O'Keefe died. So you can see Karen Reed's she's concocting the dog attack story. The Chloe story. Christopher and Karen Curran, who came over to Karen's house for dinner, gave evidence to the grand jury May 22nd. Therefore, 3 months before this time would have been February. Was Paul Makowski the inventor of the concocted story on innocent Brian Albert, Colin, and Brian Higgins, or did Karen Reed concoct the fantastical story all on her own? I believe it's Karen Reed. So that's pretty much what I have for today. We can look at Yannetti's story real quickly. Just before I go. BC Law, defending Karen Reed, David Yannetti. So he graduated from Boston College Law School in '89. Provides a look at the role in one of the most high-profile Massachusetts murder cases in the years. This is by Elisa Leston. She graduates in 2026. It's not often that a defense attorney are met with autograph requests, flashing cameras, and media frenzy when entering a courthouse. For David Yannetti, 89, however, look at him there. However, this has become his reality during the trial process of Karen Reed, his client, whose case took Massachusetts by storm this summer. Isn't that not his accused murderer client, not a psychopathic, creepy client, cop killing client. At a BC Law event sponsored by the Criminal Law Society on October 28th, Yannetti spoke on his legal background, his journey from prosecutor to defense attorney, and the process of becoming one of 3 counsels for Reed, who was charged with second-degree murder, motor vehicle manslaughter while driving under the influence and leaving the scene of a collision, causing death. When it came time to return a verdict, however, the jury was in a deadlock, resulting in a mistrial on July 11, 2024. Yannetti began his legal career as a prosecutor, working for the Middlesex DA's office for 10 years. I was very associated with law enforcement and Massachusetts police, he said, citing an example. You get called out at 3 a.m. on a cold, windy night to see a body in the subway station. So sensitive, right? A body. And you can't help but bond with your colleagues. He didn't bond with the victims, however. He saw state police as terrific investigators and terrific people, really. And people he would later accuse with no evidence of doing his client's crimes. That kinship didn't always sit well with new colleagues when he transitioned into criminal defense. I'm not the profile of a defense attorney who would ordinarily be taking shots at the state police. But in this case, since it helps my client, usually, so what Yannetti is really famous for is getting his clients off before they ever, meaning getting the case dismissed before they ever have to come to trial. And that was always the MO or the goal with Karen Reed, to get this case dismissed before it ever came to trial. So anyway, that's the Yannetti thing. It goes on. It's short. It's just a short thing. In his talk, BC Law, Yannetti was quick to say that he had concerns about Turtle Boy. He described him as someone who had bashed the hell out of one of my clients 6 or 7 years ago. He was somebody you want to keep at arm's length. Really? Does he want to keep him at arm's length? The tactics he uses are not the tactics of a refined defense attorney. Not that. So Yannetti, so if you read Turtle Boy's witness harassment, some of the legal filings and that, it alleges that they were in contact, that Yannetti was constantly in contact with Turtle Boy and leaking things to him and talking to him. And there are many calls from Yannetti to Turtle Boy. So here he is putting out the idea that he wants to keep Turtle Boy at arm's length, when in fact, picture tells 1,000 words. Let's hold on one second. Let me go to, I just want to show you guys this before I go. Hold on one second. Hold on one sec. Thanks for being patient. Here's Yannetti. This was filmed by Grant Smith Ellis. So here's Karen Reed. Here is Alan Jackson with the blue tie, David Yannetti with the red tie behind Karen Reed. And here's Turtle Boy on the left of the screen with the camera holding his cell phone horizontally. So watch David Yannetti. Watch David Yannetti's hand, where his hands go. Everybody see that? Whoop. So, everybody see that? So there he is, giving him the good pat on the back. Good job. You can go back. I also have it in my shorts where it's a little slowed down. You can watch it that way. All right, that's what I have for today. Please hit the like, subscribe to the channel, share this episode, and I will see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. Have a terrific night, everybody. Thanks for listening.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system a clown. Innocence Fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, Jen, like John, you were my mom. My Innocence Fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet. I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system, my clown. Innocence Fraud campaign to save